that new jobs are good union jobs, and that miners and mining communities are given what they are owed. Miners not only supplied American industry and energy for more than a century, they literally fought and died for workers' rights in this country at a time when union busting was enforced by private militias. I urge everyone in the room who's unfamiliar to look up the Ludlow Massacre or the Colorado Coalfield Wars to understand just a piece of this history. During the New Deal, it was coal mining
debt relief. At the end of June this month and next month as well for August, the Supreme Court has struck down Biden's plan to cancel up to $20,000 in student debt for the federal borrowers. It came after both the House and the Senate passed a bill to take back Biden's debt relief that the president ultimately vetoed. So while Biden has announced a new plan to get borrowers relief during a different law, it's called the Higher Education Act, many Republican lawmakers don't even want to actually be carried on this. Biden acknowledged that delivering relief through the Higher Education Act will take some time because it requires the policy to go through a negotiated rulemaking process, which includes hearings and public commitment. Still, payments are scheduled to resume in October, but still, with interest accruing again in September. And while the Education Department announced a 12-month ramp on payments after the repayment starts, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez is worried. Folks, more and more checks are expected to arrive for the Americans throughout the summer and fall. Lawmakers are agreeing to provide the low income with extra financial relief, and relief may either be in the form of a one-time check or direct deposit. But now, 2 rebate checks are going to be for tax policies. These checks are typically sent out after individuals file their annual tax returns and determined to be eligible for a refund or credit. The specific eligibility criteria for tax rebates is depending on tax lawmakers and regulations in the country. A large number of states have announced they will be mailing and depositing relief checks for many residents. During the recently wrapped legislative sessions, the lawmakers agreed to send tax rebates to people in Minnesota. And now the rebates are $260 for individuals with AGIs very high, but $520 for couples who file jointly. People within those limits will get an additional $260 per dependent for up to 3 people they can claim. Rebates are expected to go out via direct deposit and checks starting this fall too. It's important to note that the lawmakers and taxpayers who have to apply for these payments are going to get good money. Georgia has a very large budget surplus, and the latest report was more than $6 billion. As I was saying, to receive the funds, filers must have paid and filed taxes for the past 2 years, and according to a spokesperson, Georgia's Department of Revenue has already processed over 1.1 million total refunds. It totals about $257 million. If you haven't received your money yet, don't even worry. The Department of Revenue said the funds will go out over the next 8 weeks for those who filed by April 18th. Those who filed after the tax deadline will of course wait a little bit longer, as refunds will not be issued until one's tax returns have been processed. A Wall Street Journal analysis of Federal Reserve data reveals a concerning financial situation for people ages 30 to 39. The demographic accumulated nearly $4 trillion in debt during the fourth quarter of 2022, it reflects a substantial $140 billion rise from preceding the quarter. Now, according to Yahoo News, the mounting debt is indicative of broader economic challenges faced by the generations. The New York's Fed data reveals that millennials in their 30s are accumulating debt at a very high pace, which is starting to be alarming. New data have shown that 72% of U.S. millennials are actually in deep trouble, living paycheck to paycheck. More than 1/3 of Americans say there's still loans that prevent them from buying a home, because we all know that this is not the right thing to do. I also want to make another point on this important stimulus information, that a significant portion of the 22 to 37-year-olds surveyed revealed a concerning trend of retirement savings. It's according to the survey, a considerable number of respondents said that their monthly contributions to retirement savings were lower than the previous year.
Or debt on their credit cards, and there has been a huge jump in the number of people reporting they have signed up for SNAP, food stamps, or visited a food pantry in the past.
Folks, there's a ton of news about the fourth stimulus check, Social Security benefits, and there is an important update for all Americans. Experts are now warning the American people that you may owe money to the IRS this year. It is due to changes to the tax relief benefits and tax credits, but there are some changes that you can take. Although filing taxes can be a stressful process, there's often an upside. It's getting a refund. This year, filers are not seeing any refunds at all. If anything, they're looking at owing the IRS more money for the first time in a long time. And now, in a recent interview, a chief tax information officer said we are going to see a big increase in balance due filers. But Mark Stepper isn't surprised by this trend in the slightest. In fact, he has even anticipated it before. Plus, in 2021, many key tax credits got a stabilized boost. The child tax credit, for example, saw its maximum value rise $2,000 per child to $3,000 per child ages 6 to 17, and $3,600 per child under 6. That was a huge bump. The credit also fully became refundable, so that if an eligible filer owed the IRS more money, it could still receive its entire value. But those enhancements went away in 2022, so did enhancements to the Child and Dependent Care Credit, and the Earned Income Tax Credit, that is. So that explains why many people are not only seeing tax refunds this year, but looking at the IRS debts. In 2021, the American Rescue Plan sent $1,400 stimulus checks into the recipients' bank accounts. Those who were eligible for the money didn't even receive it in 2021, were able to claim it on 2022 tax returns. But at this point, they aren't even really lingering stimulus funds to collect and use offset to tax liabilities, which also explains why the IRS suddenly started staring down the IRS balances, and they're not sure how they'll recover from this. If you owe the IRS money but don't have it on hand to cover your tax bill, don't panic. They also have a problem, and don't ignore the problem. The good news is that the IRS will commonly let taxpayers and filers pay off their debts over time, via installments and arrangements. It won't stop you from incurring interest, though, on the money you owe to the agency. But if you make your payments in a timely manner under one of those arrangements, the IRS comes after the repaid ones. But Mark Steber, a IRS agent, noted that if you're looking to have a writing from the IRS and a large check, and you've done tax yourself, it could be worth it to hire a professional for another look. They may be able to find different deductions that you didn't know you were eligible for.
Spending on little ones, and we need to be investing a lot more in childcare to grow our economy. But these MAGA House Republicans are threatening to cut the little bit of funding that we do have going into childcare.
To offend America's health, security, and freedom. The rule includes 5 pieces of landmark legislation, which the gentleman, Mr. Morelli, has very clearly explained. I thank him and Mr. McGovern again for their skilled leadership in assembling this rule and steering this crucial legislation to the floor. First this week, we'll have our version of NDAA, which you explained. It supports our nation's servicemen and women. It strengthens our national security and promotes national leadership on the global arena.
Folks, we got 10 news about the fourth stimulus check, Social Security benefits, SSI, and SSDI. Here's the most important part that you need to know. Now, the Senate Republicans have actually slashed programs like Social Security for a long time. And what this means is that data has been released on Social Security. The lawmakers are pushing for immediate changes to be made, and these changes will negatively impact millions of seniors that receive Social Security or SSI checks. For instance, Republican John Thune slashed such programs would be a solution to the national debt. He wants to cut out Social Security. New relief checks will be sent out to eligible Social Security, SSI, and SSDI VA beneficiaries. However, lawmakers oppose that extra boosted payments should go to a more targeted group of people, and specifically Social Security recipients. Within the plans the US government has to benefit people in need, we can find 3 different ones: Social Security, SSI, and SSDI. These 3 can sometimes be combined, but not always. The date for receiving the Social Security supplement coincides every month with the first day. The amount of money we will receive will depend on